compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Dayton. Councilmember Grossman.
Here.
Councilmember Menon.
Here.
Councilmember Michaels.
Present.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Here.
Councilmember Park.
Here.
Mayor Zenna.
Here. Okay, first item on the agenda to be considered, the Washington Street banner request. You have this one, Jimmy, or?
Sure. So the chamber submitted a couple renderings for a banner that they would like to be displayed on Washington. And please, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, the request is that it's a general kind of support of the downtown and the shops type of banner, so it's not tied to a specific event. So I believe the request is to, through the mayor and council, to obtain permission for, I guess either, I'm not sure if they're looking for a specific design or any of them, but the main request is to have it be hung outside of any other conflicts with any other banner requests that come in that do advertise a specific event. And Adam or John's been, I'm not sure if that covers it accurately. I know there's 3 renderings. I'm not sure if you're looking to order 3 or.
John, why don't you come up to the microphone, please? Sure. And just give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Jonathan Krieger, 163 Highwood Avenue, president of the Chamber. So in the last meeting, I talked about the sort of state of affairs in the downtown. The Chamber has put together a plan that involves some marketing centered around shop local, support local. So we'd like a banner, which is sort of a call to action from our residents to do that, shop local, support local. So we'd like it hung really in as many places as possible, but the first was on Washington. And at any point, I know that like, the Little League or any fairs, at any of those times, if there's anything that's going on, a week, 2 weeks, whatever the standard is that those go up before an event, it comes down. And then when it can go back up, it goes back up.
My only ask is, we've had some problems in the past with wind and everything. If we could just make sure, you could just work with Jimmy to make sure it's produced the proper way. So we've had some incidents in the past written down.
Sure.
Yeah, I sent the application, which it has like, the size, the cuts for the wind. So if you need it, I'm happy to send it again. It's not a problem.
Great.
But yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't come tearing down or being damaged.
Yeah.
Any other, wait, don't go away yet. Any other questions from council members? Jeff, please.
So how many would you want on Washington Street to start?
Oh, just one.
So just one?
Just the banner on Washington, but there are a couple of other areas, right? Like on 9W, there's a bunch of signs. There's another.
It's a different type of banner.
Yeah,
That's not a banner.
right.
That's
You're
like a
just talking the over.
I'm saying is sign it from a sign.
I'm just wondering why we can't have, if it's in one spot, we can have the other banners up at the same time. The fireworks, they won't interfere. I mean, that's a long enough block. I don't see that you'd have to take it down. I think it's a great thing, and I've seen other towns with it, and don't know
More the
why we
merrier.
don't have it yet.
Yeah. The more the merrier, right? So yeah, I didn't know that there was another area for it, but if there
Nice
is,
banner.
great.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's great that we use the new logo as well. So thank you for.
Not using the 3 words we have in the new logo. Different word in there, but that's okay.
All right, so it sounds like we're all good?
That's fine.
Okay.
It's not using the 3.
Hey, Lauren.
That's
One more
fine.
Lawrence here.
Okay.
I'm not here to redesign.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent.
Hi, how are you? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Administrators report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to take any questions, but I do have two other items to add on to the report. The light posts within the downtown, the painting of them and the rehab of them will begin this week, now
Yay.
that the weather has turned a little bit. So they're beginning this week. And then,
Wait, Jimmy, before you move off of that,
Yeah.
I had asked that we assess the electrical in each of the light posts. How are we doing, and is there anything outstanding left to be fixed?
I could ask Mike to see how that,
Okay, I know we finished one of the streets, we were working on the second
you
street.
put like outlets, the
Yeah,
electrical boxes?
well, to make sure all the lights all the light heads are supposed to be changed to
yeah, of course.
LED.
Yeah.
Everything, all the electrical for the outlets. That way, if any storefront wanted to light up their storefront downtown, they could.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, the first part with the LEDs, that project is complete.
Now, I had a request from one of the businesses who put out outdoor lighting and was told that she had to take it down. Do you know about this?
Which business was this?
It was Mel's Butcher.
I believe
Go ahead.
that was attached to our our barriers
With the outdoor
with
dining.
the outdoor dining.
Okay,
and
so-
that- Right, so.
Yeah, and it was done without, I don't,
comments or-
yeah, I don't wanna,
Okay, so if a business currently would like to light up the streets, which would be amazing, and that's the goal here, what's the process, and let our businesses know, what is the process for them to do their own and pay for their own lighting of their storefront?
I mean, if their storefront, like,
Is that
No, they want to hang like a string lights, or, yeah, like Brasserie had poles with some lighting.
on, go ahead,
I-
go
I
ahead.
would say it all depends on what it is that's being done and how much is being done, and whether or not it would need electrical approvals.
So the best way, so kind of one of the things we always advise people when they want to do something is to apply for a permit to do it.
I'm saying, do we have a permit in place now? Because before we didn't have electrical, so we didn't have that option. Now we've redone all the electrical downtown.
So the source may not have been there, but the permitting would be the same as if the source had been there. That's part of your building department, it's there.
Right, so she should apply for a permit for what she wants to do.
Permit.
Yep,
Okay, so
absolutely.
maybe, actually, since our chamber's here, I was gonna say, maybe we reach out to our chamber, and if any of the businesses want to go through this permitting process now to light up, our electrical grid now works downtown.
Sure, on that topic.
Yeah.
Is there a plan to do streetlights or something similar to what was done, like what you do during Christmas and the holidays? For the people on permanent?
We added money in the budget for this coming holiday season.
For the holiday,
We
right.
have additional money this year.
But this question is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that was the original idea, was that we would have tall poles and sort of crisscross the street with the lighting. We've been told that that's a lightning hazard, that it's not possible to do that in our downtown. But what we are moving towards in this whole conversation is that we have fixed all the electrical grids outside each business, so they can hang low level or on their business lighting to light the street up. But the crisscrossing across like Washington and River Avenue with like a string light, it was not allowed. That was the original idea behind it.
So, but the bottom line is, if operationally, if Mel, the butcher block store, wants to put up lighting, she should just simply submit a permit, apply for it, and then we go from there with her
So
plan.
that's, so you're, because I'd like to just inform, this was sort of the general, so retail tenants can hang string lights
Okay, so,
outside of their space.
right, so that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in order to get approval for something, we have to see what the plan is.
Of course, yeah.
Right, so we don't have any idea whether she's looking to put lights on her building, across the street, or what she wants to do. So we would need to see that. We go to the building, it goes to the building department, and then the conversation can start, based on what's being asked.
Lawrence is thinking about like the grid was upgraded, or, sorry, is that what you said? So that to facilitate that, or, I mean, I understand getting permits that hang string lights in, for sure, but I'm just trying to understand the grid.
So there's two parts to our downtown lighting. One is actually the street poles, so now those have all the heads have been changed to brighter LED, better lasting
Right.
lights, and they're getting repainted, which I know Christine Everett will be very happy with. The second part is the actual electrical sockets, which are buried in the grass or the dirt near each tree, and throughout the downtown, those needed to be upgraded. We've spent now 2 years upgrading them. So the businesses cannot hang lights on our existing light posts, but what they can do is they can apply to use basically the plugs in the dirt and hang their own lights, but they have to go through, from what I'm understanding now, a permit process and say, this is
All
where,
those trees can be lit up, or areas
Right,
that are.
that's the hope.
Christine, do you have a question on this topic?
So the municipality is paying for the businesses?
Okay, no, so Mel, apparently there's a request by Mel to do something with lighting. We have no idea what those details look like. Whatever she wants to do, she's got to go to the building department, ask for a permit, show some sort of little sketch of what she's wanting to, and then we can the building department will make a determination.
But Lauren is saying that they could put their spring
They-
lights, decorate their area.
Okay, so,
plugged into the municipal
We have to
laws.
figure this out.
right, so, hold on a
Yes.
second, we're getting far afield. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more. It's not that
Right.
simple.
Right.
You're talking about not just the electricity, but those poles are not attached to the stores, so it would be over the public sidewalk. Obviously, you don't want something that's going to fall and, strangulate someone. So I think the conversation needs to be had with our borough administrator to make sure, and/or our attorney, to make sure the facts are right of what can and can't be done. I think it's great to have someone light up, but I'm not sure it can be just attached to public electricity.
Personally, I would suggest not to do that.
Right.
It seems like a mess. I was just more curious, when you initially spent this money over 2 years to get electricity to what sounds like what's called planters or areas in that.
Correct.
What was the intention?
The intention was to have lighting provided by the town.
I would just say that would be amazing.
Yes. And if I can just finish, if stores, and this is just an ask of the chamber, if stores are going to do their own lighting, you may want to talk about some uniformity in it so you don't end up with what looks like visually a mishmash, at least just to ask them to consider it. I don't know if that's feasible.
I would just say, this is gonna sound strange. Get to where we're probably get to anyways. I don't know that you want to even allow stores to start hanging lights outside of their spaces across sidewalks and things, right? I would say the easiest and best thing for everybody would be if some time was spent just figuring out what it would take to just light up those trees or whatever those areas are independent of the stores.
I agree. And just my point was, if someone wanted to light up the wall or the awning outside, that can, I've seen towns where that's not coordinated at all, and it looks like somebody came along and did a Jackson Pollock. So,
I like Jackson Pollock.
I do too.
All right, one more,
Yeah.
go ahead, Laura.
Okay.
So one of the things we have done is actually our DPW has lit up the trees up and down the streets now.
Right.
If we want to add additional lighting, now we're in good position to do so. In a future budget, we can contract to get those lit more throughout the branches if we want. But again, last year we got the whole street lit, which was, I think, a huge difference.
Okay. Other questions about the administrator's report? Go ahead, Benu, go ahead, please.
So, just before we go off the topic, the COVID memorial, we have an actual date for that, right? Is that June 25th? When do we start advertising it? How do we get the word out?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, has everything, are things in place for that? Maybe we should start including that on the next couple of administrative reports as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's not the only way to promote. I usually keep it to, not really events, but I mean, of course, that we are ready. The committee, subcommittee chose dates, and that is ready to go. We can advertise it on the website, and everything internally is ready. The materials for the path, and the landscaping, everything's ready and in place. So absolutely.
But I mean, in terms of getting the word out to the community,
Yeah.
because,
Farm
a lot
Masters.
of, especially a lot of people who would be interested in coming may not be as tech savvy or go to the website.
Maybe the mayor could
Is
say
there-
something in one of his.
Right.
Happy to.
Yeah, that's one option, but are there any other thoughts that we can?
I mean, we could put on our bulletin board, and just word of mouth, just start promoting, you know.
Senior center?
Yeah, that too, of course.
Electric light bulletin board, so I can give the trash-a-thon back.
Sure, we could do that, yeah.
Jimmy?
Okay, so then
Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm sorry, I am going to make a date request. Both Councilman Grossman and I are not there on June 25th.
That is a tough one because we were trying to do a Sunday in June and the mayor had to be available for it and it couldn't be on Father's Day. It was like, and we also had to work with the person who was, the person on the committee who was the,
Lost her husband.
That's fine.
right.
I would very much like to be there for Bill's memorial. I mean,
No, this is.
It's not Bill's
I
memorial,
understand, but he's somebody who,
but this isn't, that's a different thing.
This is a COVID memorial.
We're not
to
gonna
our
acknowledge
resident,
him?
which is very hard to find.
Any other questions about the agenda?
I just,
Go ahead.
one other quick item today, the candidate for the human resources manager position did accept the offer.
Good job, wonderful,
She'll be brought on, she's beginning at the end of May,
wonderful.
right after
Excellent.
Memorial Day. End of May.
thank you for that work, Jimmy.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Look
All
forward to
right.
meeting here.
So we're going to move on from the administrator's report and go to correspondence. There's going to be 4 items. So the first item is ESSER block party request. Anyone have any questions or issues about this?
What block? It doesn't say it in detail.
Yeah, that's Smith.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, Old Smith Village. Yep.
It just says Old Smith Village, that's the, okay. Got it.
Okay, so that's good. Fair request, rummage sale from Trinity Lutheran. Any questions from anyone on this one? Well, we're good, everyone's good with that also? Okay, so that's good.
June
Date-
10th.
Can you announce the date, Mayor?
Oh, of course.
Saturday, June 10th.
Saturday, June 10th, Trinity Lutheran Church is 10 to 3.
With the
It's having a
rain date
fair.
of the 17th.
All right.
Mayor?
Yes.
It's not on the correspondence, but I think there was another one that was requested in.
About the solar?
No, through the consent agenda for, hold on.
The tricky tray.
Which one?
Yeah, it could be, it
That one requires a license for gambling.
The
Are you-
raffle.
The raffle
application
license?
From the JCC. Yeah, for the tricky tray.
Anybody have any issues with that?
Since you're making announcements.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next item, very interesting one, is the leaf blower ban. We're going to have another interesting one.
The residents here who wrote the letter,
Okay, good. One second.
Also, can I just say that for this, I noticed I put for the good of the order, it's the supporting documentation that the resident had sent in her letter. So when
Wanna
this
come up?
is addressed now, you don't have to, you can scrap it from for the good of the order because I'm assuming she'll talk about it.
So if you could be so kind as to give us your name and address, please. And thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Brigitte Carlane. My address is 25 Lindley Avenue in Tenafly. I've been a resident here for 22 years. So I have 3 children. They've gone through the public school systems and I should say, various schools. I'm a part of Green Faith, which in the Bergen County Circle, working with the Church of the Atonement on their environmental committee. And so we work on a lot of different environmental issues throughout Bergen County. We've worked to stop the various power plants from going up that were unnecessary. And the trains, we've been actually working on the train issue. They call them the bomb trains. Years before these most recent explosions actually happened in the Midwest. So this was an issue that was already on our radar because we have, as everybody knows, these trains coming through so close to many residential streets. So we're working on a lot of different issues, and this leaf blower ban came up. There are a lot of different townships and towns in New Jersey who have taken steps to ban them, gas-powered leaf blowers. And there are a few different issues with them. So the township of Maplewood was actually the first township to ban them a few years ago on February 2nd, 2021. And another ordinance was passed a little bit earlier in 2017. I think a lot of people became aware of what was going on during the day in their towns during the pandemic because a lot of people weren't home, so they didn't realize the noise and the pollution that was going on. I had 3 children. I was working part-time and a part-time stay-at-home mom, so for years, my second son was born shortly after we moved to Tenafly, so I was very aware of the noise and pollution for 20 years that has been going on. It would wake my children up from naps and just basically be really disturbing. Every time summer came around, springtime came around, it was just, they would fire up, and that was that for the rest of the summer. So this has been an issue that's been around for a long time. I think originally there were concerns with landscapers and their businesses and that they wouldn't be able to afford transitioning over to electric equipment. But I think those concerns have been really eased in the last several years as battery-powered equipment has become much more affordable and much stronger and more powerful. I know that everybody in Tenafly wants a nice-looking yard, and of course we probably have ordinances as well to keep your yard looking good, but I think that at this point we can have a balance. I think in the past, I know I had spoken to the previous mayor about this issue, and he just didn't feel like the support was there and that there would be a lot of blowback from landscaping companies. But I think now that a lot of landscaping companies are kind of stepping up with the times and are converting themselves over to different equipment. So
Can I ask you a question? I'm going to interrupt you
Yes.
for a second.
Please.
Because you brought up a topic about landscapers. Have you had any conversations with any of the landscapers locally at all?
I have not.
Okay,
No.
all right. So
Yeah.
this isn't, just going to say something, then Lauren, and then please continue. This is an issue that's been percolating for years that we're all kind of in different places originally. If this was 6 years ago or whatever, we were all kind of like, how are we going to ban these things? But I think my thinking, a lot of people's thinking has been evolving on this whole topic. I can't speak for the council members, but I think there's definitely some of us up here that are more open-minded to this topic now, as we've been seeing other towns doing the same thing. But Councilwoman Dayton, you had a question, and let's go back to her conversation. Go ahead.
So thank you so much for coming to the meeting and speaking up yet again on this issue. In 2020, during the pandemic, I put in an ordinance here before the council for the quiet use and enjoyment of our property, which included limitations on the noise from leaf blowers. It also attempted to create a schedule in which leaf blowers could only be operated in certain sections, almost like the garbage or recycling collection, so that, each section of town could have a little bit of relief from the ongoing noise. I put forth evidence about the noise level, about hearing loss. I put in all the articles from the New York Times, from Maplewood, Westfield, Montclair. Many towns here in New Jersey were considering, especially at the beginning of the pandemic while we were all home. But this issue was raised by residents even before that. At the time, this council did not approve that ordinance. It didn't pass. I am open absolutely to putting that back on the table, but you got to convince the 5 other people on this table. And I will say, I've spoken to landscapers, landscaping companies. One of the big pushbacks was that they wouldn't be able to schedule, we'd interrupt their business. But that was not the conversations I had directly with the landscaping companies.
Well, things
they were all
evolve.
very willing to be on a schedule or take a segment of, the way recycling is segmented.
So when you're talking about leaf blowers, are you talking about specifically issues with the gas powers?
Yes.
It's gas-powered
You're not
noise.
talking about doing away with leaf blowers?
Correct.
Okay, so go ahead, continue, just to get clear on that.
So, and you bring up a good point about the noise pollution as well. And I had thought about this for a long time, but being a busy mom, I had other things to do. But last summer, my next door neighbor had a landscaping company come. They fired up 2 or 3 leaf blowers at the same time. The noise was deafening. I had heard that there was an app on your phone where you could measure a decibel level. So I was in my bedroom with the windows closed, and it came in at 95 decibels. So I looked up the ordinance here in town. The ordinance says the limit is 65 decibels. So obviously, we also have an issue of people breaking our ordinances and being too loud with the blowers, especially when there are multiple blowers. I think even one single blower is too loud. If I was outside, I measured that outside as well earlier, a couple months earlier, but this one inside my house with the windows closed measured at 95 decibels. So I think that's an issue. It's connected but a little bit separate because we should really be enforcing our noise ordinances as well in the town. So I wanted to read the ordinance that Maplewood has. Just briefly.
Do you have the number at the top?
Ordinance 3057-22. An ordinance to prohibit the use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the township of Maplewood. Passed February 2nd, 2021. Whereas the science has shown that the noise, particulate matter, gas, and oil being released unburned, and the fumes from burnt fuel are hazardous to the health of workers, residents, particularly the elderly and the young, causing hearing loss and potential cancers, hypertension, cardiac disease, and increased stress levels. Whereas the same noise, fuels, particulate matter, and high-velocity wind damages and destroys animals, birds, insect habitats, disrupting nature and adversely impacting the health of our pets, causing respiratory and other health issues. And whereas the township believes that the passage of this ordinance will more clearly reflect the needs and values of the Maplewood community. Then it goes into the details of the leaf blower. A gas-powered leaf blower is defined as a piece of equipment powered by a 2-stroke or 4-stroke engine using gasoline or a mixture of gasoline and oil blended fuel, and used primarily for but not exclusively to blow grass clippings, debris, leaves, et cetera, et cetera. And then it goes on to, they have hours where electric and battery-powered leaf blowers are permitted, and turbine blowers as well. So they really go into, the noise issue and the issue of pollution and the effects on our health. And I think this is really, it isn't just a noise. It's 2 issues. It's a noise problem, and then it's also a health problem for all of our residents. And it really is shocking. I pulled up a couple more articles too. And it really is shocking how toxic these are to our health. And here we have the headline: gas leaf blowers and lawnmowers are shockingly bad for the planet, and bans are beginning to spread.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
How much energy do you have for this issue?
How much
Be
energy
careful
do I have?
how you answer that question.
I have a lot of energy for this issue.
So I'm going to ask a question of the council, and then we're going to continue
Okay.
with you, okay? This is a very interactive process.
Okay.
Council members, what are your opinions on this? Jeff, Vanu, Julie?
So, thank you so much for bringing this issue up. And I know it's been an ongoing issue, and I've gone back and forth. For example, there was the proposal that Councilmember Dayton talked about, but also had an odor limitation in it, which would have made barbecuing next to impossible. So
That
it
was a
was,
separate section.
but the ordinance had so many different things. That's why it was, I like a focused ordinance. I also like the fact that, I don't know your thoughts on it, and I'd be interested. Maplewood did about a 5-year partial ban where they did seasonal. They basically banned it during the summer for a couple of years to let people adjust to it. I would actually go further than that. I would say to start, just to get people adjusting, You allow it during October, November, when we are picking up leaves, for starters. And then we can work towards the way Maplewood did, not just all at once. I do my own lawn. I do not understand why people have landscapers blowing leaves at this time of year. It baffles my mind. They're blowing everything out and there's no need for it. So the 2 months a year, I don't know if that would be of interest to start, because that's the way Maplewood did it. They didn't just say, we're doing this tomorrow. It started, I think, 2016, past 2017, right?
Right, and then there was an additional ban that they put into effect in 2021.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, how do you feel about that kind of an
Well,
approach?
I think that something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
I think stronger ordinances are better than weaker ordinances.
I agree.
So, and I think for me, really, for years, I didn't really think about the extreme health issues, but they're really pretty extreme. So if you'll let me continue in terms of, you may have different thoughts once you hear about all of the health effects.
Before you continue, I just
Okay.
recognized two council members who wanted to make a comment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Right, so thank you for coming. It's a relevant discussion to have. What is, articles that I've seen, when I was doing research on this, it talked about what normal conversation is, what dangerous levels are. Maybe you can just explain what decibels actually mean and how it dissipates over, let's say, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, if you know. I don't know if you know all of that, I mean, you're a scientist. But, I can kind of explain where I'm coming from, just from my point of view. But if you know, I'd love to hear what you have.
I can't say that I'm an expert on sound and sound waves, but I do know that, sound is really harmful. My husband is a Marine colonel, and they use sound in interrogation in all sorts of ways to really disturb people psychologically. So I do know that sound is really damaging, and in terms of wildlife as well, it's very damaging to wildlife. I can't really speak to in terms of, distance of sound and how fast it dissipates and everything.
Sure.
But I do know that when the landscapers come in, they're really multiplying the effects. So, and even the research talks about how much particulate matter and everything is being released into the atmosphere. So you double that and then triple that, with the 95 decibels, that was 2 blowers and possibly 3 at times. And that's far exceeding the noise, level that is appropriate. I mean, 65 decibels is very loud and can cause hearing damage. And I think that speaks to actually another point. If we want to protect the health of workers, we have a lot of, lower paid workers. And so if we're talking about, environmental justice issues and things like that, these workers, they don't really have a say in what equipment they're using. And if you transfer over to electric equipment, you're going to be benefiting not only the residents, you're going to be benefiting the workers who are doing this work, who probably don't really have a voice in what kind of equipment that they're using because they're working for a landscaper. So, I think it's a multifaceted issue that could benefit a lot of people.
I got it. I mean, so that we don't go on too long. But, my understanding is that electric lawnmowers are in the 55 to 60 decibel range, somewhere around there. Normal conversation is around 60 to 65. So I don't know why our ordinance, where they came up with the 65 decibel number. It also depends on how long your exposure is to the sound. But 60 to 65 is considered normal from what I've read, normal conversation. 85 is supposed to be, for 2 hours or something like that. There's a time period in this. Is supposed to be dangerous, so 85 and for 2 hours long is a dangerous level. and then it gets progressively worse. So the regular gas-powered lawnmowers, from what I understand, are about 70 to 80. When you're behind, when you're 30 feet away, for example, that 80 comes down to 60. There are a lot of factors in here, and I don't disagree that bringing electric lawn equipment is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I just think that we need some understanding of what these numbers mean instead of just saying, 85 is too loud, or 65 is too loud, or we're breaking the law. Because I don't know how we came up with that 65 number.
So your noise ordinance is the model ordinance that is prescribed by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and it has to be approved by them, which it was. So all of that is set forth by the state recommendations.
No, agreed, but when you, as I said, when you read, what the 65, what normal conversation is 60 to 65. I can show you the articles, but 60 to 65. And then when you look at things like if you're behind a house that's 30 feet away, that drops significantly. It's that sort of thing. There's a lot of dissipation. There are things.
Correct. I will say that in the
let's-
noise ordinance that
That
in
still has to be flushed
measuring,
out.
it's
Right.
all part of the criteria and the schooling for the person who actually is certified to use the equipment.
Julie, go ahead, please.
So this is actually a really good point as to why I think when you wrote the letter, it interests me again, because as the mayor's saying, like the thinking is evolving on this, and other towns have kind of set the roadmap. However, what I think is important here is the sound issue is almost like a weird black hole, right? And in my mind, it'd be much easier, because you've kind of bifurcated it, as you said, this is environmentally damaging. And that if I understand what you have learned correctly, that if we use the battery-powered equipment, that's better environmentally, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in my mind, I do believe that there would be some interest on this council. I don't know that we have to get lost in the weeds with noise ordinance if we just get to the ask.
All right,
So then my question for you actually is, I'm bringing back in the mayor on this. The mayor had mentioned that, had you spoken to landscapers? So my question actually to you is this. I know you've had conversations with landscapers, back.
Sure, of course.
Now, if there's interest here, I would want to know what if the landscaper says, or a few landscapers say, look, I just have no interest in switching over, where does that leave us? Because we want buy-in, and I know that's important, but
Right,
what's your thoughts on that?
We've got a concept, an idea that's been evolving. The residents brought it to us. Again, it's coming to us. And there are other residents who send us emails and correspondence
Yeah.
about help on this. So, I would recommend, if the council is so desirous, is that we task the Environmental Commission to really look at this. And I think there are 4 landscaping companies in Tenafly that are owned by Tenafly residents. They should be included in part of this process in terms of understanding what it all means. So we're dealing with lots of facts and information, including as many people as possible. So that's what I would recommend at the council that we move
Dan and
forward.
I both can circle back to
And
it.
then
Yeah. We're both on the
perhaps-
Environmental
so
Commission.
Perhaps you'd be willing to help us out with some of the data collection if that's the
Hey,
route we wind up going.
But,
Yes, Laura.
but one more thing,
Right.
one more thing on that comment, is that just answering to Councilman Grossman's thing about a few months, I would be more interested if this comes to fruition in the idea of a phase-in, because not to go full in, but the idea of, okay, because it's not just our landscapers who have these, some residents have these, right? So that idea of, okay, that phase-in of now we're kind of transitioning our community over to it, but then it's the entire season, but, you know, we have to, the devil will be in those details.
Yes, there's a lot of details. Lauren, please.
So I want to say 2 points. First, I want to thank you for being so strong on this, because the CDC clearly says, you know, this is a health hazard. And I want to remind everybody that many of the leaf blowers are going on during our school hours, and the effects on young children and any children in terms of learning, hearing damage, memory difficulties, concentration, has actually been shown to affect education. And so, you know, thank you for being strong. I think with any of our ordinances, there is a grace period, but this has been many years in the making. This is not the first we're hearing of it. Again, I introduced an ordinance on this in 2020, and it's 3 years later. Our residents have literally complained about this in numerous different fashions, in numerous different ways. Thank you for being part of the Environmental Commission for Bergen. That's fantastic. And the second thing is, while there is a phase-in, obviously, we were supposed to have meetings with landscaping companies. And like I said, I've spoken to a couple at this point. I haven't covered everybody, obviously. But at this point, they are dropping the cost of electric blowers. They're dropping the cost of different turbine blowers. Before it was a financial consideration where it was very difficult to get those. Now I think the market is obviously caught up with the science, which is wonderful. And so again, I think, you know, there is a cost that is no longer as, I shouldn't say as detrimental, but as extreme to a business. So I appreciate that time has passed and allowed the market to catch up. I will say, Mayor, since I've worked on this for 3 years, it might make sense to take a look back at what was on the table already.
We're going to look at everything, absolutely.
I'd like to, obviously, I'm not on the Environmental Commission, but this was something I worked on, worked with residents for many years at this point.
You're welcome to go to the Environmental Commission. As long as I don't show up or another council member, we won't have a quorum there, so that's good.
And again, let me just say that when I put this in
It's a
3
public
years
meeting,
ago,
so-
Councilman Grossman, Councilman Menon, they all said no. And I've been pushing for this for a long time, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so does the council want to do that in the Environmental Commission? Makes sense? Okay, and you're, Dave, we're going to get to.
There's a landscaper, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
If I could address Mr. Menon, his issue with the lawnmower and the noise of the lawnmower. So I think that the focus hasn't been on lawnmowers as much as the leaf blowers. The leaf blowers are much louder, and they don't usually use one. It's usually in conjunction, so your sound is being multiplied. If you have somebody mowing and 1 or 2 people blowing, then, you know, you have 3 machines, and then it really goes up exponentially in terms of noise. So there's that issue as well. So I just wanted to talk about how much pollution these leaf blowers actually emit. Gas-powered, pardon?
Yeah, I think.
You got all that?
I think,
Okay.
so we've
So-
moved to the point where we're going to put this on one of our, the Environmental Commission to get into the details.
Sounds
Right,
good.
which we really can't get into tonight, right?
Yeah,
And so, from what you said before,
yes, I'd be happy to. Okay, great.
All right.
Thank
And
you.
so
Actually, if you
Thank you
email
so
it
much.
to our borough clerk, he'll distribute it.
Distributed.
and our borough administrator, Jimmy, right here, is going to be in contact with you
Okay,
to
great.
talk about the Environmental Commission and all those sort of next steps,
Perfect.
okay?
Okay,
Thank you for
great.
your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Dave? You went from from Zoom to live.
Yeah, I figured I should come down.
It's okay, yeah, it's all good. Dave, why don't you just give us your name and address, please, for the record?
My name is Dave Cabela. I've lived in Tenafly since about 1979. Live on Clinton Avenue, 343. Two students just graduated from Tenafly, so I know a little bit about it. Thank you. College, just got back 2 days ago. 343 West Clinton Avenue. So I think I'm well qualified to lend some information regarding this topic. I think this was a topic we discussed via Zoom about 2 years ago when I offered on
my behalf and also on behalf of other landscape contractors who are residents of Tenafly to be involved in this discussion. I think it's crucial that the data be discussed in an open manner. I personally own electric blowers for my crew.
Say that again?
I personally purchased electric backpack blowers for my crew about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Great.
We have been using them, we tested them out, and I can tell you that from the financial standpoint, they're very expensive to operate. So I can cut to the chase and tell you exactly what it
Interesting.
costs.
Interesting.
And from the financial standpoint, each man that uses a blower during the summer, not the autumn, requires 2 batteries per blower at a cost of $300 per battery, and they go through approximately 6 batteries a day. That's pretty optimistic. We could go through a lot more in the autumn. The bottom line is, who's paying for this equipment? Well, initially, I'm paying for it, but the reality is you're paying for it because the cost is passed down to the consumer. There's no way around it. And that doesn't include the infrastructure for charging. I can't charge all my equipment at once because it'll blow my building's circuit breakers. So we have to have an honest conversation about what this is going to cost the residents of the town. Now, I will qualify that by saying 2 things. A, I sat on the Environmental Commission for 7 years, so I'm acutely aware of the problem. I'm also acutely aware of the noise issue, which we have the ultimate, we pay the ultimate penalty, hearing loss and all of that. So we're all on the same page, but the question is, how do we get to where we're going? And I think that's the discussion. And as I've always said in the past, why don't we all be on the same page, work together towards a common goal, rather than a have versus have not, or a, hey, we want to ban this stuff and this is the way it's going. Because I don't think there's anybody in our industry who will deny that this is the way it needs to go, electric, whether it be vehicles or mowers. But I think at the same time, if we can do this in a sensible way, it will cost the community a whole lot less, and you'll get better buy-in.
Lauren, do you have a question? Oh, Dan, then Lauren, please.
Just want to double check what you said, because I was writing really quick. 2 batteries per backpack, 300 per battery, and you need roughly 6 a day.
Per person.
Oh, per person.
Yeah. Now, I run 2 maintenance crews. That is a lot of money. Batteries have a limited lifespan.
Yes.
And these blowers don't work very well, but they're good enough.
What about the initial blower, the actual?
About $500.
Okay.
So they're pretty comparable to gasoline-powered equipment. Now, Moore's Law, where will we go in 2 years, where will we go in 3 years, energy density. But I think we'll get there. I mean, certainly everything trickles down from automobiles. But we're not there yet. And that's the problem is, we already run a lot of equipment, trim equipment, hedge trimmers, even chainsaws. We have a chainsaw, but we're not there yet. And that's our biggest worry.
Right.
And
So go ahead, Lauren, then. we're
So
gonna wrap
first,
this
I
up.
want to say thank you for coming out tonight, being part of the conversation, and for actually moving to the technology that is environmentally friendly, even though clearly expensive. We need your voice to be part of the conversation so that we can better understand how our municipality can help. One of the things that was in discussion when I was first writing the ordinance was a state contract for electric blowers. Now, I don't know the status of this. If anyone else at the table does, please feel free, but it was supposed to help relieve the cost of moving to that technology. I'm sorry, I don't know the status today, but that's definitely something we should consider and look into on behalf of the municipality. I mean, maybe there's something, in terms of charging
to
that
be
we can
flushed out.
assist with.
Right.
Things like that, we absolutely want to be part of that conversation.
Wait,
So,
state contract for us or for
no,
them?
it's to get the electric blower, so at $500 each.
Yeah.
Well, the state,
Oh.
right, there could be state
Grant type
grants,
things?
tax credits,
that's
things like
different.
that available to businesses. I mean, that's a very common concept.
And there were things in the talks, now I don't know where they are today, but I will absolutely be looking it up, and let's follow through with that.
we're aware that California has offered some grants, but when you work out what the cost per company is, it comes out to something ridiculous, like $50 per company. So California's a much larger state, but that's not gonna go very far. I mean,
All right, so Jeff, go ahead, then we're going to wrap this up.
Certainly, and I want to reiterate that there was a Zoom meeting about 2 years ago, a similar topic. I wrote a pretty detailed piece that I presented, and nothing has changed. A group of us live in Tenafly, we're landscape contractors, and we're all on the same page. We're not arguing that this is not the right way to go, we're just arguing that the timing has to be realistic. And this is not a stalling tactic, we're on board. It's just, it's got to be fair, because ultimately, the person who's gonna pay is the consumer, and, you know, I'm in the second half of my career, you know, I'm trying to be realistic, but it's, you know, with workday limits and things like that, it just gets passed on.
All right, Jeff, go ahead.
Real quickly.
Then I'm gonna wrap this up.
Thank you for coming, by the way. So the backpack blowers you were talking about, but that can't be what you use to clear leaves November.
Correct.
What are you using then, and what's?
For spring cleanups, we use gas-powered equipment. As soon as we can, usually around early June, we switch over to electric equipment for leaf blowers, for backpack blowers. And then we have to go back to gasoline-powered equipment late October, early November. There's really no way around it. Gasoline equipment is so much better than electric equipment.
In terms of power, you mean?
But there's the power and also longevity. I mean, the reality is that we have a job. The longer we spend on site, the more noise we're making over a longer period of time. So we need to get in, we need to get out.
Right.
And that's ultimately, you know, it's about efficiency. We're not there to drive people crazy. We're not there to make noise. And, you know, the whole thing about children in school, that's all well and good, but they're in school in a school district, and we work sometimes near them, but most of the time we're working on the hill, not anywhere near schools. So the reality of the scenario. But as we go forwards, energy density will improve and equipment will improve. From what I've read, I would say within the next 5 to 7 years, most of our equipment will be electric. It's going there. The question is, how soon can we get there?
All right, so we're tasking the Environmental Commission to do their homework on this, and we'll communicate that to them. We have your contact information, so I don't know where you were in the process of traveling, but one of the things we're asking is for the Environmental Commission to meet with the landscaping owners that are residents of Tenafly. I think there's about 4, right? To include them in this process and the conversation. So Jimmy Homs, you got to be in touch with Dave to make sure he's part of that process and communicate with the other 3 owners. Okay?
I can be the point person.
Okay.
I think everybody will agree that we're all on the same page. It's
Yeah.
just how do we get there efficiently?
Okay, all right, thank you. We appreciate it.
How
And
big
thanks
is
for
that
the
battery?
flowers
Real quick, how
in
big is that
Oresco and
battery?
everywhere else, thank you.
How big is it? Physically, how big do you think it is? Like, just an estimate.
Batteries themselves are 2/3 the size of a shoebox. I mean, I can certainly bring some samples.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
They work, they're just not great.
Right.
Okay, the next, there's another correspondence item that was emailed to council members this afternoon, and I've had side conversations with a couple of members about this. One of our residents, Linda Trembicki, who is here tonight, if you want to come up to the microphone for a second. Interesting issue. She would like to put solar power, and you correct me when I'm wrong if I say anything wrong. She would like to put solar panels on the roof of her house, except the shade from the trees are blocking the solar panels. And right now in our ordinances, you can, cut back trees, that sort of thing, in contemplation of construction when you're expanding the footprint of the home. But there's no such contemplation of what do you do about the trees when it's blocking the alternate sources of energy, specifically solar power. And am I saying this all correctly?
Pretty much.
Okay. So the question becomes and then obviously this is a detailed discussion to be considered at a later meeting. Do we want to have, I think we should probably have a conversation about how does the tree ordinance affect residents' ability to use solar power, an alternate source of energy? So any comments from council members? Or Linda, would you like to say anything before we get started?
Sure.
I need your name and address for the record, please, so we know where to find you.
No worries, you're all welcome. My name is Linda Trembicki. I'm an almost 24-year resident of Tenafly on Knoll Road with my husband and my 2 daughters, who of course have gone to the school system. I've been kind of a quiet resident. I haven't had many occurrences where I've had to reach out on things, but I recently reached out to Mayor Zinna because I was a little surprised. I methodically went about trying to look into solar power, and okay, I'm a rule follower, so I put in my request for trees. I think I've cut 2 trees in the last 24 years, both of which were dead. So I love trees. I'm not trying to cut down things unnecessarily. But one thing on getting quite a few quotes on solar is every single one said, you need to cut down these 3 trees or 5 trees on the side of your property, otherwise it's not worth solar. So I thought, okay, now is my chance. I put
a request for the gentleman to come out and take a look at my trees, and I just assumed, I put in, it was related to solar, it wouldn't be a big deal, I'm not expanding my property. But he gave me a list of the proper, accepted reasons, and not one of those 7 reasons contemplates solar, which was surprising to me because honestly, part of the reason for doing this is, our world is promoting green energy. Our federal government is promoting green energy. In fact, so much so that they're giving a 30% credit on your tax return
Right.
if you buy the system. And 30% is a lot because it's a credit, it's not a deduction. So that's a significant incentive. Our state is encouraging it by giving you, based on certain metrics, up to $90 a month in order to, also promote that. But our town ordinances don't contemplate that. So I was a little surprised when I got the little red note, you can't cut the trees, they're healthy, blah, blah, blah. And I called Mayor Zinna, and mostly because I was a little surprised, and I thought, gee, this is a little surprising that there's not some exception, or there's not something that you can do. Now, I have, and I'm being a little self-interested here, but I have a very good property, if you will, to do solar because my house faces south. It's to the back of my roof. Now, panels have become fairly good these days, not unsightly anymore, but mine wouldn't even be shown from the road. So, I'm very fussy as a landowner. I care about my property, I care about my trimmings, I care about my trees. But, all things were leading to doing this, except for the fact that I can't cut the trees. And, that stopped me in my tracks, obviously. So Mayor Zinno listened to me and, was a little surprised, I think, himself that we weren't contemplating it in our ordinance. And, if you need something more formal, I'm happy to do it, but we had a few quick conversations. One extra thing which I found very interesting is one of the various solar places that came out assisted me in giving me a copy of a map where they had put solar in. Because also, had I received permission, I would go talk to people, make sure they're doing a good job and there's no problems, etc. And there's nobody on the east side of town, at least from this company, that has solar power. And I think that's because a lot of our areas have a lot of tall trees. They're in the way. If you look at the west side, it's a little bit different. So the rule is not discriminatory, nor am I saying that. But all the solar seems to be on the west side, which is interesting. So I don't know if the trees are shorter, fewer trees, whatever the scenario is. But, and once again, it's not a discriminatory rule. I'm not saying that at all. It's just that I think if you have trees that are in the way, you can't do it, and you kind of get stuck. So.
All right, so let's ask council members some
So,
questions.
sorry, what number house are you?
I'm 29.
29.
I'm the white colonial next to a sideways
Jeff, and then
house.
Julie. Jeff, please, then Julie.
So, thank you. I had the exact same problem.
Oh, okay.
I was told I'd have to take down 1 or 2 trees in front of my house. And I go back and forth. I didn't do it. I go back and forth. I hate to say it because we just sent something to the Environmental Commission, but there's a balancing act here. And that was in my mind when I made the decision. Obviously, we have drainage problems in this town, and every tree we take out. And what did they suggest to you, 5?
Well, they originally suggested 5, and I said, that's a lot.
Okay.
I don't want to do that to my
Right.
property. So
And
I
then,
said,
so
how
down
much
to
would we go
3.
down if we only did these 3 trees,
3.
and it became
Yeah,
acceptable
okay.
use.
So it's kind of balancing the effects of loss of 3 trees, but it's more than that. Because what some of the things I looked at when I was contemplating this is that by removing trees, you're exposing your house to greater solar energy for the panels, but also solar heating, so that you have to use more electricity for air conditioning in the summer. So there's this kind of an offset, because trees provide shade and keep the
Well,
temperatures.
depending on how and where
Right.
and how much.
And-
And I have a lot of trees, so
Right.
I'm not so worried
Right.
about that. But
So that's why I think it's more of an environmental commission to work with and balance these. I think we do need to look at our ordinances and modify them so that people can put in solar panels, but at the same time, I don't want to see what happens with the clear cutting you've seen, I'm sure. Every time a
Well, I've
builder
seen it
comes
up on
in,
Hudson where, and quite honestly, that was
Everything
one of the
goes.
surprises, because I have an existing home.
Right.
We did a renovation above our top of our home, not expanded the footprint, et cetera. But I like what I have. I like my half acre, which is
Yeah.
mostly green, which has a nice backyard. So I'm not, the reason why I mentioned this before about, asking for permission, I'm not somebody who's there trying to do it. In fact, quite truthfully, I was like, oh, I have a generator. Well, that's a fixture. Maybe that's within 15 feet. And it's close. okay? So I'm not trying to, skirt any rules, but it was
Right.
something that was surprising, because I do think it is a little antiquated.
So-
I agree, we shouldn't cut all
So,
the trees
so,
down.
so
we
my
shouldn't,
point, Linda, I guess, is that I think you've raised a valid concern. I think we need to look for a way to balance it and figure this out. And I don't know, that might be back to the Environmental
think all
Commission.
this-
I'm keeping them busy. And
This is definitely going to be another issue for the Environmental Commission.
because we need the expertise on the issues,
Julie,
not
then.
just 7 of us up here who are spewing, oh, this is a good idea kind of a thing. That leads to,
No, I understand that, and I think, but what was surprising to me, and
Yeah.
maybe this is a little bit of a pet peeve, but, and I know different administrations, different things happen, and there's a period of time where, builders were kind of going to the edges of a lot of the property, right? And all the trees came down, and I'm really not trying to, and I know it's not about
Right.
just me, so I
Right.
understand that. But I'm saying I'm here trying not to do that. I don't
Right.
want to expand something. I actually want to keep it the way that it is, but want to kind of add an adjustment. And it's sort of silly that builders oftentimes can go knock everything down, and we're not talking 1 or 2 trees, we're talking a lot of trees. And it just seems inconsistent, because that's not at all helping.
so I think our task is to come up with a solution that allows homeowners like you who are responsible to do that without it becoming something out of control.
Right. And-
So
and like
it's
I
a-
said- Right, and like I said, I do think I don't know about other communities, but I was a little surprised, just like I said, given all these incentives, obviously our state wants it too. We don't seem to be enabling it easily unless, or at least on where I am, right, because of the trees and the height of the trees and maybe the age of the neighborhood, et cetera, but.
A lot of those were designed for South Jersey, where they've taken farms, cut everything down, and built 200 houses.
Right, right.
And there's not a single tree in sight.
Sure,
So
sure.
that-
No, absolutely.
those communities do benefit from it. Anyway.
All right, Julie, then Lauren, please, and then Vanu.
So thank you for coming, and I was able to read your letter before, the meeting, so I appreciate the situation you're in. I am the liaison to the Environmental Commission, and Councilman Dan Park is on it as well. So I assure you, we will go back, and there's some very intelligent people on it, and we'll weigh a lot of things. So we had strengthened the tree ordinance, was that about a year back, Councilman Menon, right? A year and a half back. And so with that, it's allowed us to put a lot of funds into, the Shade Tree Trust, which allows us to replenish trees. There were, within our tree ordinance, an ability for a homeowner to appeal, right? So if certain things were rejected. So I can definitely understand that after the Environmental Commission takes a better look at this, that maybe there are ways to adjust the tree ordinance. I will say I'm concerned about an overcorrection, right? And I think you understand that, right? You are living in the part of town that has some beautiful shade trees. You've seen what havoc is wreaked on each block. And my concern would be, I really don't want to contribute to that, as I know you don't. Because not only do trees take away water, right, with the flooding issues, but they also provide habitat for animals, right? So, with that, seems like you're definitely on the same page as well. I just would want to be that maybe we, after it's studied, we can look for the idea of how a person can make appeals, and that would be a revision within the code, but also weighing those other benefits of trees. And so that was just where my head was at. But I do promise you, we'll look more into the issue.
And respectfully, like I said, the thing that, something irks me a little bit is the fact that, you see these trees going down willy-nilly for no good reason, and once again, I'm not against builders, but they want to go, I understand the concept of economics and maximizing their space and square footage so they can increase the price. But in my mind, that shouldn't be allowed, but not something that, I'll self-appoint myself as being a little bit more responsible than that and just trying to do something that actually is good, right?
Okay.
Yes, it gives me a financial
Right.
benefit, I'm not
All right.
saying that, but on the other hand, it is something that is more green. And
Lauren, you're
It
next.
is something that is useful, and I think we need to really look at a lot of it. I totally agree, like I remember when, what,
Okay.
50 trees were knocked down on.
All right, let's,
That's sinful.
we've
right?
got more questions from
That's not
council
right.
members.
But I'm not trying to do that. It's like, there's a side benefit, and maybe we need to reduce one and up the other a little, then maybe that's the way we can kind of get everybody a little bit more equity with it.
Lauren?
So I live pretty close to you, and I have these 100-year-old trees. And I don't laugh about this, have, the small solar-powered lights all over the property. And, somebody said to me, oh, you'll never get it because, your trees at some point. But so what I would like to ask of you as we go through this is actually to look, it's almost like a shadow study. I actually can get sunlight for the designated amount of time it needs to generate power during the time. And with the 100-year-old trees, what's amazing about them is that they're so tall and thin, they do fill out there and they're gorgeous, that the sun can pass through. Now, I don't know your canopy, obviously, if it's a dense canopy. So what I would ask of you is actually to sort of try to take a track of the shadow, see how much sunlight, 'cause I think 6 to 8 hours or 4 to 6 hours for some of these solar panels. Sometimes the companies are pretty quick to say, take your tree down or cut, the other option is I've cut branches back actually, where I see the shadows are the most intense in my canopy. I've kept my trees and I've cut branches back, which have actually given my backyard now solid sun, which I didn't have when I first moved in, but my 100-year-old trees are still there.
No, I
So
understand.
there's some good options. Obviously, we need to go through the process.
Sure.
But before you're relying solely on, the solar panel company,
Right.
I will say, in this part of town especially, that, the sun moves that
I
quick
understand.
way.
I do have a fairly dense area, and once again, I'm not bluntly, I don't like to cut the trees either.
Right.
So I'm not somebody, I love my property, I love the way it's surrounded,
Yeah.
but that's why I kind of push back on, well, wait a minute, can't we say not these two? How much percentage will I get if we do something with these three?
Right.
But I've had 5 companies come out, and everybody has said to me, these 3 trees are critical, otherwise you're wasting your money.
All right, let's,
So-
Maybe have a.
we got to
land-
keep moving on this here.
Okay.
So we got 2
Maybe
more.
it's a landscaper.
No, we're not done yet. 2 more council members have comments.
So,
Manu?
just a quick question on, when they rejected the cutting down the trees,
Yes.
did they, in our ordinance, we have, where you can cut down the trees and then mitigate, by planting.
That apparently doesn't exist in this case. If you're not one of the 7 rules, then you're not allowed to even mitigate even if you try to.
Yep.
So it's a flat no.
Got it.
But I did ask that question. And the gentleman, I can't remember his name, the gentleman.
Michael Cassidy.
Right, exactly. He said, I said, well, isn't there, some other exception or some other way? And that's when I realized, reading through all of it, there was no exception for solar, but there was also no exception for mitigation.
All right, Dan, you have last comment here?
Yes,
Then we're going to move on.
While if we're gonna bring this back to the Environmental Commission,
Right.
would you feel comfortable sending us like the plan one of the companies sent you, or what are the?
I think.
You think you sent that to me?
I think I
Yeah,
sent that
I
to
can
you.
forward that to
So-
Omar, who
I'm happy
distributed to the
give you
council.
anything.
Like a map or
I actually just had
anything?
informal conversations.
Yeah,
There's no
right.
formal
Remind
letter,
me of that,
but
Omar.
I'm happy to give you
Whatever the
anything I
company
have.
has, yeah, so that way we can at least have a start point,
Sure,
and then.
of course.
we'll-
And if you have other questions, believe me,
Right, 'cause
various
they're-
companies are happy
right,
to.
right,
It's a
absolutely.
fairly expensive project, so believe me, when I ask question,
All
in
right.
fact, someone wants to go plant trees in the Amazon if I do this. I'm like, no, we need to keep them in town. It's not
We're going to
about
focus on
that.
Tenafly right now.
But, so people are very willing to give data, and
Yep,
that's how I
yep,
got some of the other
yep, yep.
information too, so.
All right, Linda, thank you. We're going to task the Environmental Commission with reviewing this, and then there'll be more conversation. Yes.
I did not do an appeal because we spoke and I figured it needed to be addressed in a different way.
Right. I mean, if you choose to do an appeal, do an appeal. We're not.
It makes more sense, doesn't it, to see if this is going to be something.
Oh, I would imagine the appeal would be heard quicker than a change in the ordinance. Yes, just knowing how the processes work. So if you want to do an appeal, do an appeal. That's not going to prejudice the whole process at all.
Well, I was hoping I would be able to sway everyone, so it would be a non-issue.
And perhaps you have, right? But okay. All right.
Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Linda. All right. We're done with correspondence. We're going to move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a public comment?
Very dense, so they look together. If I
It's
make
public comment time.
it's a little- it's kind of- He has a picture, so he can probably show you.
I mean, I spoke about it with the mayor just as a heads up, but I mean, it's a request, I mean, you know my answer.
Christine Evron, 39 Leroy. One of the restaurant owners asked me for help he would like to have outdoor seating on the street, on J Street for Mother's Day, which is this Sunday,
This weekend.
which is very short. He realizes that it wasn't in his universe that he should think about when the barricades were ruled against, that he needed to do some other thing for Mother's Day if he wanted to do that.
He has no
His-
paperwork before us.
Pardon me?
There's no paperwork before us. Where is he?
There was issue was raised today, right?
He submitted the paperwork this morning. The real question here is, you guys have ruled against the barricades, which is fine. Is there a process for special occasions like Mother's Day to request street dining? He proposed having a car in front, a car in back, and sawhorses along the parking lot.
Okay, so let's
And he's basically asking for a one-way, and that's the paperwork we filed.
So let's separate the issues. If a group of businesses and/or residents wanted to close a street to have an event, there's an entire process, you can actually apply for that. We granted, there's a block
That's what
party
we-
tonight.
That's what we applied for this morning.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to close the street, the council would say yes or no, and what this particular restaurant is asking for, the entire process of closing streets for outdoor dining involves the police department to see if it's safe, the fire department to see if we can get fire trucks in, and between now and Sunday,
That's
that's
fine.
close to impossible to get this resolved. I'm not even sure, I mean, we would have to move barriers, it doesn't seem like, yeah.
No,
we can't do
nobody
this.
wants concrete barriers, they just wanted sawhorses.
Well, that's a
But
safety
that's up-
issue.
That would be up to the police
Yeah,
chief.
yeah.
But, everybody is fine with that.
Okay.
It's not enough time.
They want to close the street for an event, they can do that.
They-
Right.
This is the correct process to follow, because I think there
Yeah.
was some even question about that, whether the rule against street dining is always true, or can they apply for exceptions via the event process?
If someone wants to apply for an exception, they can do that via the event process. They'll go through there.
Thank you.
That's
all
what they would do.
the
Okay, good.
If magic had happened and he had it cited, but he certainly understood.
Okay, good. Good, okay. Who else would like to come up? Please come to the microphone, name and address.
Jonathan Krieger, 163 Highwood Avenue. The email that you saw with the banner, there was,
Sorry, are you speaking as a resident or as the?
Just let the gentleman speak.
sir, there was a request for the banner on Washington, but then there was the signage along the other areas of town where there's existing signage. So by the basketball court, by West Clinton, where railroad hits. So there are areas that you guys use to announce plays and street fairs and things of that nature.
Billboards,
Was that did you see that?
billboards.
That was separate.
Yeah, it's just a sign request.
Yeah, I'll get you that's a different permit, so I'll send it to you.
So that
That
can
goes
go-
through the building department, but I could help you with
But
that.
those are usually not long-term, right?
No, those are for specific
Specific,
events,
just
For events, yeah.
for
30
nonprofits.
days, I think 30 days is the
Yeah.
maximum, perhaps.
Got it.
Yeah, could be.
Well, I
But
just
there's a
wanted to-
whole process for that.
One thing that possibly the chamber could do and bring to the council is, as part of the wayfinding stuff that the council has approved, if you believe that's something worthwhile to bring to the council to say, similar to how we have, well, the Tenafly sign, I'm not saying yes or no to this, I'm just giving you a recommendation. Possibly if the chamber wants to pay for a sign and bring it to the council to say, shop local, I'm making that up, then the council can decide if that's something worth putting up permanently. So I've seen in many towns, the Chamber of Commerce sponsors a sign or something, so that's a possibility.
Well, also, didn't we have a Eagle Scout with a project where he was going to be putting signs?
He was doing his homework with some of the private.
Because that would be a perfect place at an entrance to town to put that kind of a sign.
What was it?
So an Eagle Scout came, you've seen the big signs with different groups.
Yeah.
Like the Elks.
Yeah.
Elks and all that.
Yeah.
So an Eagle Scout came with a proposal to do one of those, and certainly one of the things that would be great to be on there would be the Chamber's sign. But that hasn't, he's still working on this.
I have not heard
That's
back,
just-
yeah.
It's,
He moved on to something else.
or he
Well,
moved
I
on.
think that that's a different idea than we proposed right here. I think the concept of shop local should be in the downtown, should be in the areas where, we want the community to come out and see that. I think putting a shop local, thanks to the chamber, on that billboard full of other things is not the same effect.
But wouldn't you want a long 9W in East Clinton? That's
That's
a
what I-
beautiful intersection. Come shop Tenafly.
Right, so the 9W signs are like a good example.
Yeah.
Right, so there's four
maybe
locations
there's-
for the signs.
Maybe there's
Those are
some,
not permanent though on purpose at 9W.
right.
Correct.
Those are,
But
Just something
maybe,
to consider.
maybe
I-
seasonal, something could be
So
worked out.
communicate with Jimmy, and he can explain how the sign ordinance works, the locations and all that.
Got it.
Okay?
Something
Alright.
different.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to thank you all, because I think that sign on Washington is going to go a long way,
Good.
and we're very thankful for it.
Thank you.
Great night, guys.
Thank you, Jim. Any other members of the public here in the chamber like to speak? Okay, any members of the public online in the virtual world that would like to make a comment or ask a question of the council?
we just say hi, Shel.
I see no hands, Mayor.
No hands? Okay, we're going to close public comment time. We're going to move to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions about consent agenda resolutions R23-175 through R23-191? Omar, listen to me. Banu, please.
All the trees
so-
coming down.
What?
Just one observation on the tree resolutions, the various tree resolutions.
Right.
In the past, we were having, it would say how much the amount was being put into escrow with the number of trees, major, minor, and all of that. That somehow it has been taken out. So I'd like to see future resolutions containing that information.
Well, isn't it it's in the resolutions themselves, the detail?
It's not. So it says 1250, the first one.
Oh, it's got the money in it.
Says the money.
It's
And
got the
it
money,
says
not the
tree
number of trees.
removal, So it's very vague. But in the past, it would be very specific. So I'd like that specificity.
Okay, so Omar and Jimmy, let's look at that, okay?
The only thing I would add, though, is that these particular refunds means that they took care of the mitigation, and that's why they're getting the,
Understood, but just so that we, and it should be just consistent, consistently for all.
Jeff, please.
Councilmember Menon took exactly what I was going to say, except we don't need it for the ones where they're getting money back. I think it's ones with the forfeiture. No, there are two forfeitures.
and they're not in those.
Right,
They're
but
not
Council
in
Menon
those.
is suggesting it be for all of them.
I'm just saying, for consistency.
But at the very-
So that we know what
But at the
what
very
activity
least,
is, yeah. For-
how many trees are lost?
Agreed, at the very least
Right.
for that.
Okay, any other questions on the resolutions? Okay, could I have a motion to approve consent agenda resolutions R23-175 through R23-191, please?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Omar, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dayton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, are there any questions about resolutions R23-192 through R23-195?
Yes.
Lauren, please, first.
I'd like to talk about R23-195, which is to approve engineering services to develop the swim club property into the skate park, dog park beehives. So I think that these engineering fees are too high. I think this whole project is too high. I think this is a poorly planned project. So I'm going to take every opportunity to mention that to the public. So I'd like to know if we've asked them to lower these fees.
So you want to talk about their fee schedule as a percentage based on the project, so.
Correct.
I mean, we asked them for the proposal, they submitted the grant, and that's where we are now, just reviewing their proposal for consideration.
And again, I mean, we're taking open space money, so they're including that in their engineering costs as their whole cost.
I'm not sure we understand. So the engineering cost is
The
the engineer.
percentage of the whole thing, including our open space.
Right, where the money comes from isn't,
I'm making sure the public understands.
right, so
Everyone's
the
listening.
source of the money is never how, the engineering fees are not calculated based on the source of the funds.
So there's possibility of spending $50,000 here on just straight engineering out of our open space.
Which is
This
already
is a matching
earmarked.
grant, isn't it?
Right, it's a matching grant.
This is a matching grant.
And it's already in the number.
I'll be a hard no on that.
Okay.
It's not a new number.
So I'll call for a separate vote on 195. Okay. Any other questions from the council? Go ahead, Jimmy, you have a question?
Just a comment if no one has any other questions. Just briefly, with the Riverside Co-op, as it
On the road.
shows on the roads,
Yeah.
those two resolutions, it does show the included additional roads per the recommendations and discussion with the council. So thankfully, we got favorable bids again for this year, so we could do additional roads.
I'm
So
sorry, Jimmy, I'm just, because I'm in paper, is Sisson on it? Did
Yes.
Sisson get added? Thank you, thank you, Andy.
I think,
With
Marconi is-
respect to the roads, I wish Andy were here because I want to know, we're just getting to this now. Maywood has been tearing up every single road and repaving them and milling for about a month already. I would love
good.
to know what they're doing different than us.
Maybe they're paying more money per cubic
Or
yard.
it's last year's budget.
Yeah,
Could be
could be
last
last
year's
year's budget.
Last year's.
Yep.
It's a possible. I could look.
State
I could,
grant.
I could ask.
Could you?
I could.
Because-
Yeah, it's a possibility that they may just go out to bid on their own versus where we're in a cooperative, so we'd get, in theory, better.
I'd love to know because the number
I
of
could find
roads
out.
they're doing makes ours look tiny.
They're also very small.
Okay, any more questions about the resolutions?
14.
Jimmy, can I ask to, back to the road program for 1 second? If there's anything additional, Jewett is just pure potholes.
At this rate, we've kind of gone up to.
Right.
Gone up
We've-
to our
We're at
Yeah,
the max.
yeah.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve resolutions R23-192 through R23-194, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Omar, call the roll.
Sure. Councilmember Dayton,
You just threw 194, Mayor.
Correct.
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve resolution R23-195?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Omar, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Dayton,
No.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. We're going to move on to the ordinances. Okay, Omar, we're at 2306. Can you please read the confirmation of publication of the ordinance and the title of the ordinance?
Sure.
That's impressive.
Ordinance number 2306. It was an ordinance published in the Sunday, April 23rd edition of the Record. It is an ordinance to amend the amend the title, salary, wage, or compensation of the employees of the Borough of the Tenafly Administrative Employees Bargaining Unit for the calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023.
I'd like to open the floor for any public comment on ordinance 23-06 only. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to speak on this ordinance only? Hearing none. Anyone on Zoom that would like to speak about this ordinance? Now's the time to speak up, please. Omar, do you see anyone who wants to speak?
See no hands, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to close public comment. I forgot which side of the room I started on this side. So, Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, can you make a motion, please?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading, ordinance 23-06, and that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Could I, Omar, could you please read the roll?
Sure. Councilmember Dayton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to ordinance 2307. Omar, could you please read the confirmation of publication of the ordinance and the title?
Sure. Ordinance number 2307, which was published in the Sunday, April 23rd edition of the Record. It is an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 3, Borough Regulations, Section 3-6, Bicycles of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly, 2004, to include low-speed electric bicycles and electric scooters.
I'd like to open the floor for any public comments on ordinance 23-07 only. Anyone in the chambers like to speak on this? Anyone out on Zoom that would like to speak on this? Omar, do you see anyone raising their hand?
No hands, Mayor.
Okay, we're closing public comments on ordinance 2307. Councilman Michaels, could you please make a motion?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 23-07, and that notice of the same shall be published according to law.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please conduct the roll call?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 23-08. Omar, could you please read the confirmation of publication and the title?
Ordinance number 23-08. It was published in the Sunday, April 23rd edition of the Record. It is an ordinance to amend the fee schedule, Section 10-1.3 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly, 2004, entitled Construction Code Fees.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on.
So just for the benefit of the public, we've received some more feedback and some additional amendments on the fee schedule. So it has been circulated to the council as amended from the original that's been introduced. And therefore, the public hearing will be carried to May 23rd. Thank you. For consideration of the construction code amendments as amended this evening.
So should I take any public comment tonight? Or
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, right? Okay. Okay, so we're going to open the floor for public comment on ordinance 23-08 only. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to comment on it, please? Come to the microphone, name and address.
Christine Evron, 39 Leroy. Can you just summarize in general what was changed and by how much? In general, if it's like
No,
that
no.
they raised overall,
It,
income is expected to go
so
up 20% or something.
it's a lengthy ordinance. It's something that covers all of the construction code fees. It was researched thoroughly about 3 different times by the construction code officials in the department, and every single aspect of it has been looked at.
So they modernized the piece. Is that correct?
I would not categorize as modernized, but perhaps if you consider that bringing it up for inflation and consistency with surrounding communities and state fees, then yes, I would call it modernized.
Are there any other members of the public here that would like to speak? Any members of the public on Zoom that would like to speak on 2308 only? Omar, do you see anyone?
I see no hands, Mayor.
Okay, so we're going to we're going to close public comment and carry this to the next council meeting on what date?
May 23rd.
May 23rd. Okay. All right, 23-09. Omar, could you please read the confirmation of publication of the ordinance and the title?
Sure. Ordinance number 2309, which was published in the Sunday, April 23rd edition of the Record, and calendar year 2023 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Okay, I'd like to open the floor for public comments on ordinance 23-09. Anyone here in the chambers would like to speak on this one only? No? Anyone out on Zoom that would like to speak on 2309?
I see no hands, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to close public comments. And can I have a motion? Councilman Menon, would you like to make the motion on this one, please?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 23-09, and that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please conduct the roll?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yeah.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to the Bergen County Open Space Application R23-196. Authorized submission of Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund Municipal Program Park Improvement Applications, Municipal Field Improvement Project. Jimmy, our administrator, is going to give us a brief overview of this grant application, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll give a brief overview, and this will be the opportunity for members of the public, if they wish to provide any comments as a part of the public hearing process for the application submission. So part of this application and what we're submitting is to replace and upgrade the artificial turf at the soccer cage, as well as where the current skate park is, to demo and remove all the equipment from there.
Isn't this one a Muni?
No, that was already submitted.
R23-196 was submitted.
No, the application towards Muni was already submitted.
No, I understand.
No, I know it says municipal field improvement project. Before that, it says it's the municipal field.
I understand that, but
No, a separate application was submitted for that project.
thank you.
So the one part of this application is for the turf at the soccer cage and the infill, to replace that. And at the skate park where it's currently located, to demo, remove everything, flatten out the asphalt concrete with epoxy cover, as well as provide for striping for multiple active recreation games and some passive items as well. Additionally, two other aspects includes just general landscaping in the area within the Roosevelt Common area, as well as providing additional signage.
So Jimmy, I had this question for you. It might in part be for Councilman Park. I know there was like a talk about possibly a pathway or something between the two, or like, I'm not sure if that was inclusive of this idea of landscaping. Did we get any more details? No, that got thrown by the wayside?
Once we know what the whole park looks like, then it's the next phase of this project.
Okay, so this is just the tiger cage and the multi, okay, understood. Because my only concern is I just didn't want to have any increase of impervious, so that's not on the table. Okay, got you. And the other question, I just want everyone to understand, this is again a matching grant that we are applying for.
Correct.
All right,
It's through
just
the
like with
county.
the pool club property, because that really does
Correct.
save out of our own open space.
Correct, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open, Lauren, go ahead. Then we're going to open up for public comment.
Jimmy, I know that I have looked into beautification and landscaping here in Roosevelt for a couple years now. This number seems low, because while we can fix up the turf and create the multi-space, it doesn't take into account actually beautifying and making essentially a green space around it in any way. That number is going to be too low to fund it. So is there going to be a second opportunity to do that landscaping, or do you think maybe we want to reconsider the amount here?
Or we can do it in-house.
We've never done it in-house for the 6 years I've been here on this council.
Because you ask on the day of the budget meeting.
I don't ask on the day of the budget meeting, Dan. I've asked for numerous years. I've asked for open space. I've asked for a landscaping budget through DPW. Without getting into a tiff over it, I'd actually like this project to incorporate it, and that was the intent, that we actually look at this large space in Roosevelt as a whole. And so I do find that this number is inadequate.
I think, there were some that including myself, that wanted it bigger. I think what we did is we decided, let's do
Phase
a
it.
couple. So that was the intention of this smaller piece of it.
When did we decide that? Because I
We
thought
get
we
a
were applying
percent,
as a larger one.
so the county grant is based on a percentage of your demographic and socioeconomic, whatever that word I'm looking for is. Right, yes.
Because
So
there's
we're
limits to the grants.
capped at a number, we're not gonna get 50%, we're gonna get 35, 40.
All right, Jimmy, go ahead.
And if I could add, and I apologize, Councilman Grossman, just quickly, if I could add, those two projects are currently in our capital budget, so that was part of something that was already pretty much in process of being approved, and also just to try and offset those costs.
Correct.
Jeff, please.
And I have
I'd like to
asked him.
respond first, because while they're in our capital budget, what wasn't included in the capital budget was actually creating the space around them.
don't have the space, we didn't have the space in the budget for it.
I understand, which is why we were looking for this grant to help solve that.
But it's 50/50, so as the beautification goes up,
So does the cost, right? I mean, these are the numbers that everyone agreed on.
It would be nice to not be spending $50,000 tonight on engineering for a skate park somewhere else, and to actually be putting that towards the center of our town if this is a space that should be developed properly.
All right, Jeff.
Again, I just think we're cutting corners here.
Jeff.
Haven't seen what the engineering costs will be on this yet. Anyway, all I will do is ask, as I have repeatedly asked, as we go forward with the landscaping, that we keep in mind that the original landscape plan was done by Marjorie Cautley, who was really one of the first female landscape architects in our country. It is tantamount to a historic area, and it is adjacent to a historic area, and that we not just willy-nilly say, "Ooh, this looks pretty." It has to be in keeping with, especially as we're coming up on the 100th anniversary of the Roosevelt Monument.
Agreed.
I think a good portion of Roosevelt is overgrown at this point. I think it's getting into our streams. I think it's overtaken our pond in numerous years. I think that the reason we're hiring a professional landscaper was to take a look at that. No one has the appetite to do that. I will again, for the 5th year or 6th year in a row, ask that we actually beautify using open space money that we're sitting in a trust for $3.5 million we've taken to our residents. We're not building rec spaces. We should then be actually using it to beautify our town.
Okay, so we're going to open the floor to public comment on R23-196 only. Any members of the public here in the chambers like to speak on this? Anyone out on Zoom that would like to speak on this or have a question? No? Omar?
No, I see no hands, Mayor.
No one's listening.
Councilwoman Dayton, would you like to make the motion on this one?
Sure.
Thank you.
Only if I can find my paper. I have your paper, Mayor.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know how you do this in paper every day. I look forward to my electronics working again. I move to adopt Resolution 23-196.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, Omar, please, call the roll.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
No.
Councilmember Michaels?
yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay. All right, does anyone have any old business?
I
No?
actually.
Oh, go ahead.
Since I have not had the opportunity with out committee reports for a couple times, I do want to acknowledge, and I know, Jimmy, you put this in your admin report, I would like to acknowledge our Senior Services Committee, which is different than our Senior Center. The Senior Services Committee has been trying for 2 years and has written enormous amounts of work to finally get us designated as an age-friendly community. So Tenafly is officially designated. It opens up wonderful opportunities for us to do good works for our seniors. It helps us apply for grants that will help offset the costs. And honestly, we should be a place where everyone can age in place with dignity. So I'm so thankful for our committee. I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that work. And Jimmy, thank you for your help. But really, it was fantastic work it took 2 years to get that designation.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay. All right, we're going to close old business. I'd like to get, anyone have any questions about the minutes of April 18th, the closed session, and April 27th and May 4th, special closed sessions? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for April 18th, April 27th, and May 4th, all for 2023 closed sessions? Have a second?
Second.
Only the people who were at those should, right? Because don't we have to take out some of them?
Actually, everyone can.
Yeah. All, do you have that, Omar? Okay, could I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
Thank you.
All right. For the good of the order, Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, you put down this gas-powered lawn equipment, which we kind of covered. So we'll put this off to the Environmental Commission. Okay. All right, upcoming meetings, I'm just going to announce we're having a a special meeting of the Downtown Committee to discuss traffic and safety. And correct me if I'm wrong with any of the details, anyone, on May 18th. That's a Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. And, you know, it's an announced meeting. Any number of council members or myself that choose to go are absolutely welcome and encouraged to participate. Now, this is all being done via Zoom?
Yes, virtual, so we maximize
Good.
attendance.
Okay, and so Omar, this will be published as every other meeting, and the Zoom details will be online for the public, right? Okay, great, perfect. Thank you, everyone.
I have a question. Is BFJ going to be on that meeting?
So Brightview is the engineer, BFJ is the former folks, and they were part of Brightview's program, so the answer is yes. But Brightview is the engineer, they will be leading the session.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right.
Actually, time out, I intentionally made it a little later because there's a green meeting at 7, environmental commission at 7:30, so we made it 8, so hopefully you guys could attend the session. But we're trying.
Yeah, we just got 2 things today.
Okay, yes, you did, so have a special meeting. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. The first one is introducing ordinances 23-10, a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements. Councilman Grossman, would you like to make the motion, please?
Actually, can I make the next one?
Sure.
Because it's more
Okay,
to-
no problem
more to
whatsoever.
my interest.
Councilman Park, would you like to make 2310 motion?
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 23-10 and set the hearing for May 23rd, 2023 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct the roll call?
Ordinance number 23-10, a bond ordinance providing various capital improvements by the Borough of Tenafly, appropriating the aggregate amount of $2,228,480, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,122,000 in bonds or notes for the borough to finance the part of the cost thereof. Councilmember Dayton.
Yes. Thank you, Susan.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, 23-11 would appropriate funds for a preservation plan for the Tenafly Historic Railroad Station. Councilman Grossman, would you like to make a motion, please?
Absolutely, and I just want to make everyone aware before you vote that this is a modest amount. I think it's 20,000 was the number for coming up with a preservation plan. The plan will allow us to prioritize what needs to be done with the train station to preserve it going forward. And having such a plan actually gives us some advantages in applying for state and other grants. So it's a super good investment at a super low price, and we're getting some real quality people who will take care of, hopefully, looking out for the future of the station. And it's not just the Tenafly, but the Elizabeth Cady Stanton Historic Train Station. I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 23-11 and set the hearing for May 23rd, 2023 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct the roll call?
Sure. Ordinance number 23-11, an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly and the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $20,000 for the architectural services for the development of a preservation plan for the Tenafly Historic Railroad Station. Councilmember Dayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 23-12, appropriate the funds for a multi-purpose recreation area at the old skate park and the Tiger Cage turf. Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, would you like to make this motion, please?
That makes a lot of sense.
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 23-12 and set the hearing for May 23rd, 2023 at 8 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call, please?
Ordinance number 23-12, an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly and the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $245,000 to create a multi-purpose recreation area at the Old Skate Park and Tiger Cage Turf. Councilmember Dayton.
I first just want to thank our rec director, Jamie Cannon, for her work on putting this forward, and thank you, Adam, as rec liaison, and I'm a yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
No.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay. 23-13, supplemental bond ordinance for general improvement. Councilman Michaels, would you like to make a motion, please?
Sure. I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 23-13, set the hearing for May 23rd, 2023 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Have a second?
Second.
Before you call the roll, was there a question from a council member on this? No? Okay, I thought I heard something. Okay. Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Sure. Ordinance number 23-13, bond ordinance supplementing section 3B of bond ordinance 22-7, finally adopted on April 26, 2022, providing for the purchase of equipment by the Borough of Tenafly by appropriating an additional $215,000, therefore, and by authorizing the issuance of an additional $204,000 in bonds or notes of the borough to finance the cost thereof. Councilmember Dayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're in committee report time. It's just to make everyone aware, it's 9:20, and we have a very robust closed session tonight. So I would ask if the council members choose to limit your committee reports to highlights. And we'll start with Councilman Park.
Sunday, we had our trash-a-thon with the Environmental Commission and the Nature Center. This was very successful. Almost 80 people showed up. About 40 walked to McKay. So it's another year and another event. So we'll continue to do it.
Just one quick, that was 80 registrants, but a lot of them were families, so it's actually
Yeah.
more than 80 people.
I showed up without registering.
Yeah, there you go.
I think,
So the 100 is definitely more than 100.
I think Deborah said it was close to 145, Deborah Davidson.
Go ahead, Dan. What else?
That's it.
Okay. Councilman Grossman, please.
All right. TVAC just continues to answer to 70, 80 calls on average per month. That's more than a call a day. Their response time average is about 7 minutes, and their on-call average time is about 42 minutes. So we just need to realize that these volunteers are truly dedicated, and I am happy to share that their annual awards dinner, where they do recognize their efforts, is Saturday, June 17th. So I know the council got invitations to that, and we should all go and congratulate them on job well done. Real quickly on HPC, and then I'll just end it there. Last Thursday night, the county Department of Parks, which oversees the Historic Commission, honored Kevin Tremble, who is from Tenafly, for his achievements through decades. And they do give a number of awards annually for houses that are improved, for publications, but the award that Kevin got, and I really want to acknowledge it, is not given out every year. It is only given out when someone so outstanding is deserving. So it's a rare award to get. His dedication to the borough, as he used to be with our historic preservation. He's been active with the county and now is active with the Palisades Interstate Parks and helping to preserve that. He was actually one of the leaders in the fight to keep
LG.
LG building from being an eyesore on the top of the Palisades.
He was also on the planning board for many years.
Oh, right, and also on the planning board here. So I just want to publicly acknowledge a resident who has gone above and beyond, and that's my report.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Dayton.
First, I want to thank Deborah Davidson and the entire Tenafly Nature Center board. They threw a wonderful Nature Center dinner, sold out crowd, on April 28th. I unfortunately had a family bat mitzvah, so I was not able to attend. But I did hear it was an enormous success, so much so that they're looking for a bigger venue next year, which would be wonderful. So that's, great, and they did wonderful fundraising. The second thing I want to say is I hope to see you all next week at the new residence event. The Welcoming Committee is having the Firehouse event on May 17th in the evening. So please come meet our new residents. And Mayor, please put that in your Friday message.
No, I will, for sure. The new resident
Yes.
meeting will go there.
And the last thing, very quickly, our Pride Day committee is up and running and working very hard. Our flag raising will be on May 31st. There is not going to be a formal event this year for Pride Day. We're going to do a street party. So DJ, and I think they're even looking for roller skates. So please come out and celebrate Pride for the month of June with Tenafly.
What date was that street party?
I think it's the 11th, but don't quote me.
Is that it?
That's it. That's it. I said
Okay.
keep it short.
All right. I'm just going to make one comment about, on Friday, I went to the senior center for Cinco de Mayo, and they had a whole wild dance party going on over there. It was great.
Good.
The food was fabulous, and they were having a wonderful time. The senior center, as always, continues to outdo themselves, Michelle and her team over there. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. Councilman Menon.
Well, to follow up on Senior Center, they've been very busy with all kinds of activities, and they have more coming up in the upcoming months. Hadestown on Broadway, a trip to the Presby Iris Garden in Montclair, a trip to Cape May, Botanical Gardens, Ormson on Broadway, a bunch of different trips. Some like it hot, so. People are, if any of the seniors are interested, please reach out to Michelle and the Senior Center. And just, there was there was the resignation of the assistant in the Senior Center. I just heard today that she has extended an offer for somebody for a position. So
That's great. For a new person.
For a new person.
Great.
Yeah. So looking forward, and she seemed very happy with who she spoke to about it. And then just kind of just on the zoning board of adjustment, they have still been having their meetings entirely online, so it's all Zoom or whatever. But and the question is, so they raised the question a couple of times, and they've had conflicting, they've had not necessarily contentious, but just have disagreements on whether to continue in person, online or in person. And so just was wondering if there's anything that we know of that requires them to return in person, or are they entirely an autonomous board that can decide that, or is there something state?
Do you want to address that one? I don't want to make any sort of legal statement. I mean, that's really a question for Jeff Zahn.
Yeah, I would prefer not to
Yeah.
respond spontaneously.
Sure, and
So,
that's fine.
so why don't Jimmy and Wendy will communicate tomorrow, reach out to Jeff Zahn and get an answer to that question.
Jeff has been in on the
Right,
meetings, of course, as the the attorney for the board. But just it's just a question, general question of whether we can
Fair question.
return, because I think some are itching to get back in, and others are so it's very. But okay.
Anything else?
And just if we have on the council have a particular interest one way or the other. I don't know if anybody has a thought.
The only thing I will say is it won't really be whether you as a council has a particular interest, but I'll speak with Jeff as to the legalities.
Okay, is that it? Councilman Michaels, please.
Yes, super quick rec board. I won't go through how amazing the team is and the hundreds, literally, of people that have signed up both for the summer camp, softball, and everything else. I will say, just because my mother would yell at me if not, make sure that all residents know we have 2 pickleball courts now on Court 7, the tennis area. So please check out pickleball. Not when my mother and father are in town.
It's striped, it's right.
It's striped,
And people are
yep. So we
playing
have
it.
2, yes, people are using it. So you could sign up
We sign up online, Adam?
online, yes.
I gotta try this.
Yep, so there you go. So that's that. A couple events coming up. Saturday, May 20th is the annual lacrosse day. Food trucks, prizes. Mr. Mayor, you can't win them all. But please sign up for that. Oh, you don't have to sign up. Please come to that. Never too early to start. July 4th, remember, which is actually July 4th celebration will be on Saturday, July 8th. Morning will be lots of kids stuff. Please come by. Evening, Divinity Rocks, right?
Actually, she's going to be doing her
kids also.
kids' album.
Perfect. So kids 10 to 2:30 and adults. And then the fireworks starts at 7:30, but 9 o'clock are the fireworks. And then the last one further out, but Tuesday, September 12th, please put in your calendars, biggest night of the year, which is our community night. So please, Tuesday, September 12th, 5 p.m.
Adam, I'm sorry, I just want to add one thing to that list, because I'm so excited about this, and thank you, Angela Hitchcock, for this work. There is a community play date on May 20th. Did it get canceled?
I think we're moving it, yeah. We had the meeting last night.
I'm sorry.
I could really be messing you up right now, but I'm almost
this.
certain that we had to move it possibly. But if not, we'll follow up, and I'll take responsibility.
Okay, well, but thank you to Angela
But
for
it's
her
amazing
work
when
on
Angela's
it.
doing it, absolutely.
With Pass It and an inclusionary focus, but also mix and mingle everybody. So a wonderful community
great.
play date. So I hope it gets rescheduled soon.
Yep, and then just the last thing again, like the mayor said, please, if you can come next Thursday, May 18th, 8 p.m., virtual. You could check our borough website. I'm sure you'll see it throughout Facebook. A virtual session on engineering that's going to focus primarily on pedestrian safety, really, 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 really important, and traffic flow. Hopefully we'll get through town in 20 minutes or less. So great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, please.
Yeah, so just a couple things. So Adam, if I know pickleball players, and I do know a few, they already know about those courts, okay? They're very passionate. And Councilman Park, just one thing to add to your comments about the trash-a-thon is I know you're quite upset that McKay smoked Stillman School, right? In participation, so we're going to have to do better, Stillman, next year. But we've got it. Props to McKay. Props to McKay. So we're going to have more data on that for the next meeting, but the trash-a-thon was bigger than the years before, so that's fantastic. Thank you for everyone who participated. Just within the Environmental Commission, we took a kind of subcommittee approach, and thank you to Jimmy for helping organize it. It looks like we are on our way to having a compost program piloted in our community. So we're going to have some details of any families who want to get involved in that. People,
That's great.
So I think that'd be exciting. A lot of residents ask about it, and we're getting that done. And last but not least, the Stigma-Free Committee has really started up, and you're going to start seeing them tabling at different events like the Senior Health Fair and the Tenafly 5K. You're going to see this there, and I know that Omar's been helping with ordering a tablecloth for us and some banners on that. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to go into close. Can you read the language, please?
It's resolution number R23-197. At a meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on May 9th, 2023, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public. Be it resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the mayor and council of the Borough of Tenafly are going into closed executive session to discuss the following. Under personnel matters, there's the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Finance Department, and TVAC. Under collective bargaining, there's DPW Supervisor Contract Update, and additional matters falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required. In order for the attorney to exercise her ethical duties as a lawyer, there is a potential litigation matter, and it's actually 2 real property matters.
Can I get a motion to go into close, please? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we're going to go into closed session in the conference room.
So wake me up when it's over.